You are listening to Key to the Bridge, brought to you by your friends at Keystone Therapy and Training Services, where we will be sharing human stories, talking about community resources, mental health, and wellness. This is a podcast for everyone. Welcome. Welcome to Key to the Bridge. Once again, I keep saying excited because I am excited. I'm in this spot right now of getting to reconnect with people. And our guest today, Larkin O'Leary, is somebody who I get to have an annual conversation with. And I like that we're on, this is our three-peat.
Yeah.
I'm excited about it. I like it. It's a three-peat. And so we're going to talk about all the things around, I think, access, care, how we're taking care of our kids and our families and what's going on in our community. And so be ready, because Larkin and I usually bring the heat.
It's happening.
We're together.
Yep.
We're going to roll with it.
Yep.
So Larkin, will you just remind our lovely community about what you're doing right now in the community and the lovely organization that you run?
Yeah. So local born and raised, Sonoma County mom of two kids, James and June Bell. James was born with Down syndrome and a host of medical issues. So I started a nonprofit called, as one does. What else do you do during a global pandemic? You start a nonprofit with my friend Jessica, and we do presentations in the community about acceptance and inclusion. So we do schools as well as our community organizations, and then we support our local disability community by hosting a variety of family meetups, moms, dads, siblings groups. We have neurodivergent teen speed friending and bingo, and we offer calming tents to try and make our community, what I'm really trying to do is create a community of belonging here in Sonoma County and beyond.
That's all. That's it. We should just. Yeah. I keep joking that I'm really just trying to get fired. I'd like somebody to say, "Oh, we don't need you."
Same.
Oh, okay, we're all done. We're done. I'm like,
yes.
Okay, great. I wonder. Yeah, that's my goal. To not be needed, I guess.
Agreed.
But it's super important. So I think today one of the pieces that I wanted to chat with you about is Keystone as an organization and as a parent in the community. We are in I'd say a merging of our education systems and our healthcare systems that I think is exciting in some regard, that we are fully acknowledging that public health and wellness exists in our education systems, which is really great.
Yes.
I'm happy for that.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I think you and I are personally and professionally running into what the barriers of that process is looking like.
Yeah.
And that there's this challenge of a macro level kind of conversation about it. Oh, hey, there's barriers. We need to fix them. And then there's the what does it actually look like on the ground for people trying to get people what they need.
Yeah.
And so, you and I have been sharing and talking about some stories that have been going on. But I wanted to be able to give some space for thinking about parents and guardians and their kids who 100% have the merger between healthcare and schools happening on a regular basis. And James definitely too, but also there's, when you speak of June Bell, siblings and just our kiddos in general who are also having a lot of things just go on in their life.
Right.
And they also need that support to happen. And so you can take that wherever you want to go. But I do know that there's been a lot going on with you working on that front.
Yeah. Be careful what you say, girl.
I'm ready.
have no idea where this may end up.
Ready for it.
Well, you think about where we are in our world today. When I started teaching 20 years ago, there was no pandemic. We did not have fires, and we did have flooding and things like that, but not to the extreme, at least, that I feel like I'm remembering now. And so those are just group traumas that we've all faced, let alone my children have faced divorce, right? And they're facing June Bell faces having a disabled brother who has medical issues from time to time. And so, every student has barriers to accessing education. And that is why in our previous conversations, I have, doubled down on that universal design for learning and how important that is for everyone, not just kids who need more support, but also those kids that need more challenge, right? And the same is true in every system. And we think about universal design like in our medical system. We have had a heck of a time trying to get the supports we need for our kids. You think about James. James is hard to understand. He has an intellectual disability, but James has gone through 31 surgeries and procedures, hundreds of days in the hospital. He's also navigating divorce and living in 2 different houses, and I don't know that he's 100% sure why or what's happening. And there's no one who can therapize him. There's no one who knows how to. We've been fired from 5 therapists trying to support him. And, I think one of those we went through our healthcare insurance only for it to be an every 6-week thing. The rest of them, we paid out of pocket or we went through different organizations. But it is such a challenge to find support for these kids.
Yeah. I mean, what you're saying is so interesting to me because I just immediately, you said like the therapists not knowing what to do. It's not even really included in training. Like I think about like, it's not even, I don't know where it even is on the radar at this moment in time.
I don't think it is.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. It's just not on the radar. We are in the clinical mental health world, like just starting to lean into like neurodivergence and kind of like different ways of seeing the world or, things like that. Maybe talking about different identities, but to talk about really just complex medical experiences, but also just the way James operates in the world.
Right.
You would need exposure and training and thinking through like what that was going to be like. And I don't know where that lives.
And I don't know that it lives anywhere. I mean, I've talked to some amazing therapists and people who really are vested in, like yourself, that are vested in our community. And it's like, it's so interesting to me because we talk about people with disabilities and intellectual disabilities, and we talk about these behaviors and these kids that are so bad and blah. And I want to preface this by saying my belief is there are no bad kids, right? Behavior is communication. And if we want to be able to support these kids and support our community, we have to figure out what they're trying to communicate. And when they've gone through traumas and they're unable to get, when I go through something, I always say I need to get it out of my body. And I'll take a day of mourning and I will cry and I will talk to my friends and I have to get it out or it just lives in there. And I think that is true for the majority of humans, right? But when you're not able to access that in some way after being through so much trauma, how else do I expect my son to show up in this world other than with behaviors, right? And so as a community, all kids are our kids. My kid is your kid is my kid. I cannot we are interdependent in this world. I cannot exist without you. How do we completely miss the mark of an entire population of people? James is not the only one.
No.
And so how do we show up for them? And that's a question I don't have an answer to. But
no, I don't have an answer either. But it is a very important question because I do think that all healthcare, like the whole experience, whether it's physical or mental and emotional in their bodies, like there's a whole area that hasn't really even been focused on. I mean, we've got like teeny bits of things happening in different places. But when you talk about inclusion, right, like this has not been a group of people that has been included at all. Really.
Right.
So if you weren't supposed to be seen or you weren't even maybe supposed to be alive and you definitely weren't supposed to be at school or in the community, you weren't thought about needing to adjust. And so it's an interesting thing to think about where, I don't know, Larkin, I do think that James and anybody else who is experiencing the world similar to James, how we even include them in this conversation. Like, what could they tell us about the care that they want? And I don't even know if they're being asked.
I highly doubt it. I highly, despite disability being one of the largest minorities in the world and the only minority any one of us can fall into at any moment in time, it is shocking how often they are forgotten at the table to be part of the discussion of what can be helpful. And, and truthfully, I don't know that James would have an answer to that, but, I mean, we've been alive for how many years in this world as human beings? How have we not considered it? And that's what I think the problem is it's not even been a consideration, like for the profession, because how do you do it? And I keep running into this problem of, well, there's these barriers and systems are so hard to change. Well, the only way to change a system is to change the system. Yeah. Like, we have this new presentation we just developed, which I'm super pumped about. I don't think I've told you about it. I just did it in Katie's class. And we talk about removing barriers. It's a hands-on demonstration of how hard it is to remove barriers. And we give people these boxes. And as teachers, for example, we're taught that you get this box of 30 kids, right? And all squares fit in the box. And here you go. Here's your beautiful little class, right? But when we get into school and we get our class, we get triangles and rectangles and all these different hexagons and different shapes that don't fit in the boxes. So how do we do that? And it's fun watching people as you give them this box and you're like, no, they all fit. And they're trying to shove them in, right? You can't shove kids into spaces they don't fit. And then they realize that if they remove the barrier, they can fit.
Oh, interesting.
But people have it brings up a great conversation of, do we remove this barrier? I don't know if we should remove the barrier. Should we do that? We did this with our board, and one of the people was like, well, we could remove this. And the other person was like, I don't think we're allowed to. We shouldn't do that, right? And it starts this really great conversation about barriers and why do they exist? They exist because they exist. That's the reason. And because they're hard to change, but the only way to change them is to change them.
And I think that's why you and I get particularly fired up, is because I don't think some of this stuff is actually that hard to do. It's just the choice to do it.
It's the mindset shift that it's important and people matter.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. It's just, and I think that's the part, now that we also have our own babies in all of these systems, where I do think that piece around, like, actually, you could just do it.
Right.
It's not that complicated.
Right.
And so I do think that that's a voice that is new.
Right.
So when you're I love that you were in a room full of teachers asking them this question about the box, because that's ingrained in you.
Right.
It's ingrained to conform.
Right.
Or to figure out how you're going to matter.
Right.
Like, that's how we do it.
Right.
And so that question around, like, how are we just going to tell people, like, we're kind of done. Like, this is enough.
Right.
Like, we just need to
It's not working anymore.
Knock it off. And I asked about, like, I'm asking lots of people lately about how if the healthcare system and the education system joining forces is going to, in some ways, like, alleviate some of the barrier conversation, because there's a lot of finger pointing.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Right? Where a school will be like, no, you need to go to a doctor for that. And the doctor will be like, no, that's supposed to happen at school.
Right.
And there's a lot of that.
Right.
That happens. And so if the idea is that they're supposed to support each other, maybe, I mean, who knows? I guess we're going to try it and see what happens.
Right.
But I think about how it's being messaged and like how, yes, parents and guardians with children with disabilities or just needs outside of the box, like how they're being informed about what they're going to have access to.
If they're being informed?
Okay, so maybe that's my question. Do you feel like they're being informed?
I feel like a lot of parents don't actually know the rules and the laws and the things that they are entitled to. That is one of the reasons I started Common Ground Society and our Facebook page. I also think that a lot of providers aren't aware. I believe in my heart that our community, like the teachers and the admin and the principals and the medical professionals and all of these people get into these jobs not because they're trying to like pull one over on us or steal our money or save money. Yeah. It's because they love kids and they love the aha moments and they love watching kids thrive. That is the reality of why people get into their professions. It is our systems that drag them down and make it so that they are unable to support people the way they need to be supported. You know, an example in the medical system with James. So James has always had reflux. And there was a time when we had like a 50-day stay. We ended up in Stanford. He had a NG tube for a while. He wasn't eating. He was losing weight. Like, I was not sure he was going to make it through that period. And this medicine, we found the perfect, how much he should be taking. And he's taken it ever since, and he's done great. He was out of the hospital for like 5 years. We didn't have any issues. And then all of a sudden in January, I go to order the medicine, and they're not covering it any longer. And I'm like, well, this is the medicine that keeps him like out of the hospital. And his GI agreed, his doctor agreed, everybody agreed. They were writing letters, they were sending letters, denied. I have probably 45 denial letters. And so then we try another medicine, and what happens? He throws up blood. Great. So we're putting a child who's already had medical trauma through more medical trauma. This is great job, medical system, right? But it's not his team has been working super hard, but they don't even know. It's the system, right? And so then we try another medicine that had worked for the majority of other people. He ended up with pneumonia and ended up in the hospital, right? And it wasn't until I wrote a letter, I did the fair hearing thing, which, by the way, anybody listening who's having trouble with medicine, do a fair hearing. Ask for a fair hearing. It's not hard. It took me 5 minutes to fill out the form, and it was approved within 3 or 4 days of me doing that. After 5 months of me fighting for this medicine, 3 days, it's been approved for 3 years for him to get the medicine that he needs. Why? What a waste of time for me, a waste of time, like a waste of my poor son going through this, feeling horrible, not eating, losing weight, throwing up blood, his doctors having to waste their time advocating and calling and writing letters when they are already so overwhelmed. It just is such a waste of time and resources when we know what he needs. And this is the part of the medical system that I don't understand. And it is, a bottom dollar thing, I would imagine. I don't know. But like parents who aren't me, or maybe who don't speak English or don't know to continue advocating, are probably in the hospital with their kids because they're like, well, I just don't know how to, but luckily I am capable of doing that. And I was able to do that. But what about all the other people that can't? It's very disheartening.
And the way, I just think about too, like the way you were notified.
Right.
Like you were standing there getting ready to pay for your medicine.
Yeah.
And denied.
Or I could pay $2,000 a month.
You could have paid $2,000. Sure.
Yeah, single mom.
Just put that on
who runs a nonprofit.
Yeah, just put that on money. Just put it, here you go. Yeah. Here's your, at line probably at where you're at Kaiser.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That moment I'm thinking about, because you were just like, okay, I guess I'm not getting the medicine today.
So, yeah. Yep. Yeah. It was over and over again heartbreaking. And then James, anything shifting for him is hard. He is a creature of habit, and he is very orally averse. So he only eats pureed foods. He only eats 3 different types of pureed foods. If I try and change those pureed foods, he will not eat them. So changing his medicine, they even did something when they changed the medicine flavor, and it was like, why are we doing this? It works for him, and now I'm battling him again to be able to take this medicine because he doesn't the flavor change and he doesn't understand it, and it's like it just doesn't. Why? And to top it off, so I ended up figuring out why. I had talked to a pharmacist about it. One of my friends called me, and she was like, you can get that same medicine for $11. was $11 medicine that they were charging us $2,000 through insurance for.
How can you get it for?
I ended up getting him through the last 2 months after all of that fighting. I ordered it through her to be picked up for $11. But through the medical system, it was $2,000 or whatever it was a month. The same medicine, the same exact medicine.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know what sometimes to do with these stories because they just... The absurdity of what you're saying is like hard to process.
Yeah. Yep.
Like it doesn't
heard.
Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's
Yes,
just
I
absurd.
do.
Like it doesn't.
Agreed. It makes no sense whatsoever. Yeah.
And then also too, like where it goes, because the part that also gets me about, if we're going to use this example too, is like the collective mass, right? So there is like the amount of people who are in a similar situation. It's probably a decent amount of people.
It is.
But they're busy trying to survive their lives.
Right.
So that separation of them is what keeps the process churning in a way, right? Because there's no looking at the collective group.
Right.
Like I wonder how many times a day that happens to somebody.
I mean, that was part of my ex-husband was like, well, let's just pay out of pocket and just buy it. And I was like, okay, fine, to get him through, I'll do that. But in the end, it's like, that's not the point. Like, yes, him getting the medicine is the point and him being healthy and surviving. Great. Once we realized that, we bought him the medicine. We had it for him. But I kept fighting because I'm like, but there aren't people who know this. And there aren't, like, it's not the point. Like, it doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't make any sense at all.
It also doesn't make any sense from the sheer energy that you're talking about, because now you're managing at least two massive systems.
Right.
Between James needing medicine and James also still having to like live his life while he doesn't necessarily have his medicine.
Right.
And so that part too, I think it's just overlooked repeatedly that event took so much effort and time, and then your world has to keep spinning while you're trying to manage that. And that's also a set of resourcing that not everybody has.
Right.
So,
I mean, and it goes through all, like, James is hard of hearing, and so he requires a hearing aid. And for a long time, until I figured out the system, we had to drive to Oakland every month or so. And then when he was getting a hearing aid that would go into his ear, we would go there, get the mold made, and then come back in 3 or 4 weeks. Well, he'd already grown. The mold didn't fit anymore. So you have to drive back to Oakland, get a new mold made because the mold didn't fit. They couldn't ship them to us because Lord knows that would be too much of a hassle. And there's no one here in Sonoma County that can support a child. It was so overwhelming. And then finally someone told me the pathway to get him to, now he's seen it at Kaiser in Santa Rosa for all the things. But it took us I think we had to like not have CC. I don't remember what it was. There was some support that we had to get rid of in order to make it work for him to be able to be seen in Santa Rosa with the hearing aids, because there were like places that they were like, oh, you can go to, these are all the different places that we support. Well, none of them supported a child with a Baja hearing aid. It wasn't they could do the in the ear one, behind the ear ones, but not the bone anchored hearing aids. And even to the point where we made an appointment at this one place for a test or whatever, and they said they could support him. So I was like, great, but we had to wait 6 months in order for the appointment. And in that 6 months, before we could get the 6 months, or maybe it's 3 months, and before we could get the 3 month wait, we also had to have him have a new audiogram through someone. So that took a while to get. Then we finally got that. Then we waited the 3 months. Then we go to the appointment, and we walk in, and we're sitting in the waiting room, and the guy comes out, and he goes, we actually don't do Baja hearing aids. And I'm like, so my son has been not hearing for these amount of months, and you just now you didn't look at his file when I told you what kind of hearing, oh my gosh.
Yeah, I mean, I might have at least be probably maybe arrested at least once or twice with some of the stories that you tell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because like table flipping rage.
I know.
would occur.
I know. There's lots of deep breathing that happens. It's
I mean, if you ever get arrested, you can call me. I'll come get you.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
I'm no judgment here.
Thank you.
I'll be like, I get it.
Right.
Because I don't know.
But it's like people like me who I'm able to hold it together. I do try in my body to hold space for the fact that these people are in these professions for the reasons. And then I go home and I just lose it.
Yeah.
And I just like, in theory, it's not a terrible thing that I have like week on, week off with the kids, because that week off, I'm able to decompress and process and, and get it all out of my body. But like it's insulting almost, it's infuriating that people have to fight this hard to get the things that they need.
And the rules just don't really make any sense. That's the part where I'm not sure where we're supposed to sit. Because I also feel like I'll just say collectively as a generation, want more information. Mm-hmm. Right? And so we're getting more information. And now it's like, what do we do with it?
Right.
Right? So I do think, not that you and I exactly have the time in this moment, but I do think about the amount of people who do have knowledge, some access, some resources, but like, who do you get in front of?
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, how are we going to do some of it? Because ultimately, as you're saying, we're also a customer.
Right.
So we do have some power and say in like what happens, but I don't know where that goes. But I just think like it feels like there's also maybe potentially something like against the law that might be going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
The second you file that complaint, there's been, I think at one point when James was like 3 or something, the like CEO of Kaiser came to my house to apologize for things that had happened when it came to him. He was in the hospital for like 40 days, in the PICU for 15 of those days, ended up coming home with a G-tube. We had been in the hospital for 40 days having a button we could push to have someone support us, and then they were going to send us home with a child who had a G-tube, which at that time, super terrifying, right? Like that thing comes out and there's no ERs in Sonoma County that can support that. They don't know how to put a G-tube back in, just saying. So we would have to drive to Oakland. And then by that time, if the G-tube stays out for long enough, you have to get a surgery. It's a whole thing. And the doctor ordered home health care, but there was no home health care for children, pediatric home health care. And so I had to get in front of the board. It was like this whole thing. And the only way to get anything moving, I ended up going to like Cron 4. I forget who came in. And do you remember that? And they came to my house and did a thing. And it was right when Senator McGuire was also advocating for home health care and all the things.
But the fact that it has to be that loud,
it doesn't
to get a response,
right?
Like that loud, like that's how loud it has to be for something to happen. Is I think part of the problem too, where we're now in a place where the amount of children that we are trying to support with the diversity of needs that we're acknowledging that actually exist. I don't think it's new. People are like, "What's going on?" I'm like, "This isn't new. We're just actually saying that it's here."
Right.
Is going to be messy.
Right.
And we need to keep doing it.
But also, if we're not supporting these kids when they're kids, right?
Yeah, like what kind of adults?
What's going to happen as they get older? We're going to have to support them so much more. So why are we not spending our resources with the early intervention and getting kids the needs, their needs met? So as they grow older, we don't have to they can work themselves out of a job like we're trying to. Like it doesn't make any sense. When James was young and he was born with hearing loss and Down syndrome, I was like, well, I would love to have speech therapy for him. Kids usually start talking, like at least babbling 6, 7, 8 months, right? And he wasn't as much. And I was trying to get him speech therapy, but they were like, well, he's not far enough behind yet. And I'm like, he has Down syndrome and hearing loss. Like he is going to be behind. Like and it's maybe not necessarily speech therapy for him, but for me to know how to help my son be able to continue to make progress. Like why? You know, and I had to fight for him to get supports. He finally got it at 1, but most kids don't get it until they're 2 because that's what they say. They don't do it until they're 2. And I'm like, well, that's not, I know.
Well, and to your lovely point that you, like you say, doubled down on, how is it not a universal resource?
Right.
That there are classes on how to support your baby in their communication.
Right.
Right? Like that should be a class.
Yeah.
If you would like to attend as a parent or guardian, right?
Right.
Like, because all of us need to know how to do that and to what to pay attention to. Right.
Exactly.
So like if something is maybe behind, as you're saying, because that seems like an ambiguous word that we need to flesh out. Like, what does that look like?
Right.
How would I have context to do it? And we used to have more time with our kids. Like, people think, well, what did you do before? And I'm like, well, there was an adult.
Right.
Who was around them a lot at home. And so we had that resource, just like of like knowing, oh, you know, Erica's doing this, Erica's doing that. Now our children, not hating, are being raised by these amazing caregivers most of the day because we're at work. Yeah. And so they also need help. Right. Right? Because they're the ones, I always say they have the day shift.
Yeah, totally.
And there's no overlap or collaboration between the shift change.
Right. Totally. It's such such a problem.
It's such a problem.
Yeah.
And so I think that part too is like, what side of the argument are we going to be trying to like pitch? Right. Where I don't exactly have an answer, but I keep wondering, like, do we pitch, yes, we need some things that are super specialized because we've got some things that need specialized care. And what are we doing just across the board that would make some sense, like some logical sense? Because if the insurance company wanted to talk about bang for your buck, you could have one speech pathologist helping a room of 20 adults, teaching them some of the basics of what they should be looking for. Yep. So you also didn't have appointments for parents worried about stuff because they just don't know what to look for.
Or parents who had, like, I mean, one of my friends was an early educator, like had training in that, and then had a son who appeared typically developing until he was 2 or 3, and she was like, she had nothing to measure it against because that's just her kid and she sees him every day. And so you don't realize that there is something amiss or something that is not on the typical route that you may need to get some supports for.
Because we're also doing a lot of it alone.
Right.
So it's like that piece around Tim, like, well, where are you supposed to go if you don't get to see, right? Like, what are you going to do about it? I guess, too, Larkin, I'm wondering what happens when James's medical care is impacting his education.
What do you mean?
Like, he misses school.
Yeah.
Or
he's like sick. Like when he was not getting his medicine and then he was having reflux, you imagine having people tell you what to do all day, not understanding you, and you have reflux all day long that is not being addressed. Right. It's awful for him, I would imagine. Yep. And then the behaviors begin. And then it's like, well, I don't know, full inclusion is a good spot for him because of his behaviors. And it's like, but his behaviors are caused by his medical issues and and it's like this whole cycle of things that, like, as adults, we're the adults doing this to a child. It's infuriating. And then he misses school when he's not feeling well or when he has a behavior or when X, Y, and Z. He got pneumonia last year, so he was in the hospital for a couple days. And prior to that, he was missing school because he'd have on and off temperatures people don't honor that behavior as communication, and he's trying to communicate. He's not trying to be a little turkey. I mean, sometimes he is.
Well, of course. I mean, everybody needs to do that sometimes.
But in the general sense, like, he is just hurting inside. And how can you focus on learning math when you are that probably brings back some trauma from his previous hospital stays. He's worried about going to see the doctor. I mean, anytime we drive past even on the freeway, we drive past Kaiser, and he's like, no, Russell, who is the amazing magician of a phlebotomist, who we love. But like, he's, just traumatized. How can you focus on learning anything? Your brain can't take in information when you're focused on trauma.
And like, what do you say when the education system is basically like, this is too much? Like, right? Like, this whole situation of what James needs is too much. Because whether they say it that way or not, that's probably some of the vibe.
It is. Absolutely.
That you're getting.
I still cry at every IEP meeting, either during the meeting or after, or sometimes before, depends. But it's heartbreaking that our community can't see him as just a kid. And I'll be honest, James has an incredible team, and he has people that want him and want him to succeed. And I constantly am going to some of them, and I'm like, am I crazy for thinking he should be fully included? Like, there are times that I'm like, fine, just move him. Like, I don't, fine. But that I go to those people, and they're like, it's not like he's the type that's like throwing chairs and brandishing knives and being harmful and hurtful. He doesn't pay attention to his work, or he is behind grade level wise, right? Like, he is distracting, I would imagine, at times. But like, it's him trying to communicate something that we're not understanding, and we're the adults. And, it just breaks my heart that California is, like, I said this earlier today, like 43 out of 47 in inclusive practices reporting, like, we're that far behind. And even sadder, Northern California is behind Southern California in our inclusive practices. And so and the problem that I have is, like, it's being done well somewhere else. Why are we working so hard to reinvent the wheel? Why don't we go find out? Why don't we really focus on universal design for learning, really focus on the way that other places that are successful in this are doing it?
Man, it makes me wonder who's number one. Do you know? I'm just curious. I'm like, I wonder who's doing it well. Because I'm with you. Like, nobody is ever highlighting. Right. We're always talking about the which we should.
Yeah.
The end is not doing so great. Yeah. But I don't even know. To your point, I don't even know who's doing it well.
That's a great question, and I wish I had the answer.
No, I'm just,
but
like,
I would tell you, like,
how are we behind? Not that I lovingly like to compete with Southern California,
right?
But like, we're behind.
I don't like to compete.
Come on.
I don't like to compete with them when we're losing.
Yeah,
only when we're winning does that competition a good thing.
That's shocking.
Yeah.
We're 43 out of 47, and we have a lot of people in the state of California.
Yeah.
Which may be part of the challenge, but that's rough.
I mean, and there are places, I know, so there's an organization called Supporting Inclusive Practice Project. They're amazing, and they work with schools once they've fallen into a certain category, and they help with those. And I believe there's a place in, like, Modesto that has an incredible school where it's just a fully inclusive, universally designed campus. There are places like at Madrone, at the school my kids are at, there's a teacher there who has, like, flexible seating for her kindergarten class. And I'm like, this is amazing. The kids were on the carpet. And then she's like, okay, we're going to go do this. And I want you to choose where you're going to work best, right? In her class, I always say go slow to go fast. And I believe that's probably what she does as well, is teaching them, like, the tools and teaching them how to appropriately use the tools to support them. And walking into her class, I actually I was like, can you send me pictures of that? Because I want to include it in our presentations, because it's amazing.
Yeah.
But it's that mindset shift that we're missing. And it's the people thinking, and I am like, I did this as well, right? Like, I believed those kids belonged elsewhere, but it's that mindset shift. Like, James makes incredible progress when he's in classes where teachers believe he should be there and believe in him. His second grade year was amazing. His teacher actually brought to our attention something I missed, where she was like, I really think that I have, I don't understand. I now am finally understanding why James, when he doesn't understand something, will go, yeah, Because what we do when James is talking to us, we don't want to make him feel bad. So he's like, I don't believe it. And we're like, huh? And then we ask him to repeat it, and we still don't understand. We're like, yeah, buddy, cool. We taught him how to be a yes man. Yeah. And she's the one that brought that up. And I'm like, you're so right. Like, we need to figure out a way to reach him instead of just acquiescing and trying to not make him feel bad. We need to figure out a way to understand what he's talking about. And that was like such a game changer for me. And the progress he made in second grade was incredible. He had an aide who met him where he was at and then also backed off when she wasn't needed, helped with those friendships and connections, but saw him as a kid. And, and his fourth grade teacher, she really was like communicative with us. And, and then he's also had a teacher who said, well, why is it so important that he's fully included to us? And I'm like, well, why is it so important that your kid's included in school? Like, what? How do I answer that question? I don't know how to answer that question. And those are the types of years that are not as great. And you see that. Yeah. In his eyes and in his desire to go to school, So I don't know that I answered any question. I feel like I just talked, but
no, you are answering the questions in the sense that I think that that's the part in the answering of the question that we have to start doing more of. And it is like you and I with our teacher hats on is examples. Mm-hmm. Because I do think that there is a lot of talk right now, and it's not showing how it's like happening or applying or like what's going on. Right. And I think in order for us to be like, no, you can do it, change this, people need to see some options, which I understand. Sure. The hesitance. I could see that. I mean, even when you're talking about this box activity that now I want you to come do, I think about that hesitance to even try it without the barrier and then put the barrier back in and like to pilot what would happen. Like, we don't even have like that level of curiosity right now. Yeah. Like, what would happen if we tried it for a minute and then we reflect and we see, well, do we want to go back or do we want to leave it or change it? Like, that level of curiosity isn't there. And I think it's from the lack of even asking how this is impacting you. Right. You know what I mean? Like, nobody's asking in all of the examples that you're talking about. Kaiser doesn't ask you, if we change this even flavor of a medicine, what would maybe the impact of that be to the people who take it? Right. If we change this medicine policy and they find out at the pharmacy line that they don't have their medicine covered. Right. Why do we do, like, what's the impact of that? Like, that type of questioning isn't happening. Yeah. And I know you and I would, probably come in with a sledgehammer to a lot of things, just to clean it up a little bit, a little demo. Yes. But I do think that is, I keep thinking about, what could I show them? Like, what could I show, you know what I mean? Or tell them to be like, hey, wait, have you thought about this? Right. Or, here's the example. And the only way to get examples out is for people to talk to you. Right. And so I do think that you and I mean, we're already tired, so I don't really know what the difference would be if I'm doing all of the work that we really, really, really believe in. But I feel like we're getting back to a time now where it's like, we're going to have to kind of hit the streets and talk to people. Right. Like, there's no, I made a joke the other day, which might offend some people, but I was like, we're kind of done. Posting isn't enough. Yeah. I know why we had that phase. We all had to be inside. Right. A bunch of stuff was on fire. Right. Like, I get it. Yeah. Like, that's where we were at. Yep. But now we got to get back to this. We have to get back to like communing and talking and being in front of people, because one of the challenges of the media era is it has created this detachment where people now can just do things. Right. And they're forgetting like about the human part on the other end.
Well, and it generally only hits the people that want to see it. Yep. So I was very heavy into our social media for a long time as I was building it. And then I have taken a break because now I am doing keynote speeches and I am traveling, the California to present to all of these different people, because it is so important to get out there and for people to hear the stories and understand that, like, and I say this coming from a place where I don't know how to describe it appropriately, but like I looked at family prior to having James. I always will say I was such a better parent before I had kids. That is like the truth of the matter, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course you are.
Prior to having James, I looked at people who had kids with disabilities as if that was something they had asked for, or that was their trajectory, that was their path. I didn't understand that they were me who had a plan. I was going to have my baby, going to return as a full-time teacher in the fall. I didn't understand that plan got shifted, and that I'm still a human being, and my child is a human being on this earth who has something beautiful to bring to the world if only we're brave enough to recognize it. And the only way that people can see that is by hearing, the story and understanding that there are a multitude of stories that come with Down syndrome, autism, 22q, 11.2 deletion. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like all these different things. So,
yeah. And I think that's the part where you and I talking every year, because I went back and listened to our previous podcasts for anybody want to check them out. But it's like one of those pieces where I was listening to us and I'm like, our tone even shifted like between each year, and like this year even listening to you and I think our volume is actually louder because I think it's now that we're getting to the space of like we're going to need to be big.
Yes.
We're going to need to be bold. We're going to need to be loud. We're going to need to be in front of people.
Yeah.
We're going to have to continue making people uncomfortable, but to their face.
Yes.
And I think that's a challenge that I don't know everybody who's down for that. But starting to make people uncomfortable to their face is some stuff we need to go back to.
Yeah.
Because we're harder to ignore if I'm looking at your face.
Yep.
And so that part too, I think for you, Larkin, that we want to support you in that, but when people are listening to us talk, not everybody might want to get on the mic like me and you, but like, what are you telling parents and guardians and caregivers about their voice, and the children we're talking about, different ways that they could use it?
Teens, adults, people would just first of all, it's so important to follow, if we're trying to learn about disabilities and how it's impacted, following to disabled teens, adults, kids, reading their works and understanding their truth, right? But the best way to create change is for people to understand our stories. And my tagline forever will be connection is key to inclusion. Unless you have a connection to something, you are not going to care about it the same way that you will care about something that you're connected to. Just like James was my mindset shift with people with disabilities and inclusion, that's what it takes. And so in order for people to really get it, we have to share our stories and, empowering people to do that and share their stories, not just on social media, but in the world when we're out there. And, we are always looking for new presenters to come out. We've been kind of overwhelmed with presentations, which is exciting and terrifying. But it's really cool. But it also feels like, we're shouting into a void because it's just a slow moving ship.
How many presentations did you do last year?
I don't know. We're going to hit 100,000 students this year. We're going to hit over 200 community presentations this year. It is just
amazing and terrifying.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah. I'm tired.
That's a lot of people. Yeah. And
everybody has this buy-in and everyone's like, oh, I'm on the same page. But it's here's what we say, and this will tie in perfectly to you. Here's what we say. In our bridge to belonging, right? We need all of the supports. We need MTSS. We need supports. We need blah, blah, blah. We need all these things. But mindset is the keystone. We need all those supports are important, but without mindset, the bridge falls, right? And that's really where it lies. People are stuck thinking about how things affect them without realizing that we are interconnected, and our entire community needs our entire community. And I fail, you fail. It's just the way it goes. So why are we not supporting those who need it?
I don't really know if you could say anything at the end that would be better than that, because that was amazing that we just got all connected.
We did that.
We just
you
did
see that?
Which is what, tired mamas can do some amazing.
That's amazing.
It's absolutely amazing. We're like, what happened? I'm like,
I don't know. I
We're just
might need a
tired.
nap after
Yeah,
this,
we might.
but we did it.
We did it. We totally did it. Well, I'm going to keep bugging you.
I love
about
that.
Talking
Please do.
and showing up, and let us know how we can continue supporting each other.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate you being here today.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I always enjoy coming up here and chatting.
All right. Thanks.
All right.
You've been listening to Key to the Bridge, a podcast brought to you by your friends at Keystone Therapy and Training Services. I'm your host, Erica Bosque. Key to the Bridge is recorded and produced by Jeff Henderson and Brian Henderson. This is a podcast for everyone.